Hey everybody, it's John DePietro, and I want to welcome you to another edition of Interesting Authors. And when I say interesting authors, we certainly have one with us today. His name is David Meerman Scott, and I'm so happy that I got his name right. And when I say very interesting, this man is an international author. And David, first of all, welcome to the segment that features your newest edition of Rules of Marketing and PR.
Thank you, John. It's great to chat with you. I think we chatted probably 10 years ago about an early edition of this book.
So yeah, an early edition.
Keeping the continuity alive.
Yeah, and you know what? I got the title mixed up, but let's get it right. The New Rules of Marketing and PR, but it's the 7th edition. And as it reads on the cover, David, how to use content marketing, podcasting, social media, AI, live video, and newsjacking to reach your buyers directly. My question to you is this: when you first came out with this concept of this new rules, a lot of those concepts, those bullet points, they didn't even exist yet.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's really interesting that the strategy around what I call the new rules of marketing and PR hasn't changed at all since the first edition way back in 2007, which I was writing between 2004 and 2006. And the strategy is the old rules of marketing and PR are that you have to spend a whole lot of money on advertising, or you have to hire PR people to try to get you into the media, or you have to hire a boatload of salespeople to knock on doors or whatever. The new rules of marketing and PR that you create great content, put it out there on the web. So the first edition, social media didn't even exist. Right. You know, MySpace was the biggest social media network at the time. Facebook did exist, but it was only for students. Twitter had just started at the time I was going to press. So I have to continually change the book. And this is the 7th time I've changed it, which is remarkable. And you did mention it's international, which is also remarkable. 29 languages so far, from Albanian to Vietnamese.
A to V.
I need a Z. I don't know. Zulu, is that a language?
Zambia. Does Zambia have their own language?
I think Zulu is a language. I don't know.
Okay.
Who knows?
But you know what? Not only is it in 29 different languages, but you've got it in different formats too, from the traditional handheld book that, you know, everybody grew up with. The definition.
I'll show you one right here. It's
there
print. It's paper. Look at that. It's a real paper book. It's so cool.
488 pages.
Something like that.
Something like that. But you've got ebooks, audiobooks, and tell me what Google Play is. What is that format?
Google Play is the Google version of an audiobook. So similar to, Google version of both audio and ebook. So it's kind of like Kindle, if you want to think of it that way. It's just how you can buy the electronic versions of the book through the Google network, as opposed to going through the Amazon network.
Okay, so the rules stay the same, but the method of delivery is really what's changed. But really, your whole concept is that the messenger is now in charge of you control the content, right, David?
Yeah, exactly. We all control the content. We can all create amazing stuff. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in. I a bunch of really cool examples in the book, and I'm constantly, the other thing I'm updating every edition is the examples. One that I particularly love is the example of Grain Surfboards. So Grain Surfboards makes wooden surfboards, and they have a fabulous website, fabulous social media, where they're out there showing people the cool boards that they make, how they make them. And they sucked me into their website so bad that I not only bought one Grain surfboard, I actually bought a second one. And they're not cheap. They're like $2,000. So, you know, it's any industry. It's doctors and lawyers and dentists. And speaking of dentists, Dr. John Marashi is a dentist in Southern California. And he was just one of 10,000 dentists before he came across these ideas in the new rules of marketing and PR. And he created a website and an Instagram focused not only on his dentistry, but also his love of skateboarding. And he reached out to me a couple of months ago and said, David, 30% growth in new patients just because I did that. Those are the ones I can measure. It's likely a lot more than
Yep.
that.
He
So,
wanted to
so it's just really cool that it's any business, big, small, consumer, business to business, it doesn't matter.
So he wanted to humanize himself and not just be thought of as a drill, fill, and build guy,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. He wanted to show his passion to the world. He wanted to show that he's more than, more than just somebody who drills your teeth. Is somebody, and so now he's not one of 10,000 dentists in Southern California. Now he is the skateboarding dentist, and people love that he's passionate in that way, and they want to actually do business with him. It doesn't, they don't have to be skateboarders who want to do that. Just anyone who shows that they're passionate, that passion is infectious.
Exactly. So he's a unique dentist. Again, like you said, he's not just one of the crowd. You know, the interesting thing is when I was doing some research for this interview, I noticed the PR for the original edition, and it said, this one-of-a-kind guide.
Yeah.
Now it's 7 of a kind.
7 of a kind. Well, the other thing that's interesting about that, John, is when the book first came out, 2007, it truly was the first book on the planet that talked about how to use the web to do effective marketing. You know, there had been books about things like how to get found in the search engines, and there had been books about how to do email marketing, but there had never been a book that talked about putting it all together. There had never been a book that talked about what we now call social media, and that was pretty groundbreaking at the time, and that's why the book has done so well over the years, 400,000 copies, and since then, there's probably, I don't know, at least 1,000 books that cover the same ground. And it's so interesting to me that this idea that I thought was kind of cool, that a few other people thought was kind of cool, has become the norm. I mean, this is how we market today.
Mm-hmm.
It's no longer that online is something else, or you do your offline marketing like advertising in newspapers and billboards and
Or
magazines.
something cheaper or of less quality.
And then you do your online. It's now all in the same. You know, marketing is part of any business's online marketing now is part of any business's strategic plan.
Right.
So it went from a kind of outlier, nice to have kind of thing to being like the thing to do.
You know, we were talking before we hit the record button. You've pretty much kept the same cover design, and there was a strategy for that. But also, let me ask you this question: would you have ever thunk back 13 years ago that you'd get this much life out of one? I mean, you're almost like the chicken soup for the soul guys out of marketing.
Yeah, I never, ever thought that. I mean, I thought that the ideas were incredibly powerful. A number of people who I had been connected to at that time, because I was writing a blog since 2004, people who cultivate, were readers of my blog, and people who commented on the blog, who I commented on their blogs and stuff. This is all pre-Twitter. We thought we were onto something, but I never, ever would have thought that it would have gone this far. 400,000 copies sold over the various editions in English. The other thing that's remarkable is that the book is used in hundreds and hundreds of units in marketing classes and public relations classes and in MBA programs. And what's remarkable about that is I've never taken a marketing class in my life. I've never taken a public relations class in my life. I was rejected from Harvard Business School. Yet a couple of weeks ago, I did a session at Harvard Business School. So I figure what's cool about this is the gatekeepers rejected me, but I managed to get in through the back door because they've adopted my book, which is super cool.
Yeah, but when you got in, you didn't get in on the student desk. You got in on the teacher side.
I went in the back door, baby. That's super cool. I didn't have to go into debt to go to Harvard Business School. They let me in and then paid me for the experience.
That's pretty cool.
So anyway, I mean, it's just really a remarkable thing. But thinking about it in a really big picture, I think all of us every single one of us has an interesting idea. Many times a week for some of us have an interesting idea. Hey, this might be a good idea for a new business. This might be a good idea for a book. This might be a good idea for a song, or whatever it might be. And what I've found is that very few people actually execute on what they think is a good idea. They don't actually go to the next step, you know? And so people have told me over the years, oh yeah, you know, when the new rules of marketing and PR came out, I had thought of that already. I had thought of that idea already. I was already doing some of those things. I said, good for you. I mean, you didn't do the book, I did. I persevered to get that book out there. And I see the same things with people who start companies, you know, the entrepreneur who just digs in and starts a company. I have so much respect for that. So much respect, because they're not just saying, oh, this would be a cool idea. They said, I'm going to, like, you know, mortgage my house to start this company and hopefully get other people interested in it. So I really have respect for those sorts of people.
Interesting. You know, David, one of the things that holds people back from writing a book is they think that their knowledge is not valuable enough, or even, you know, a lot of people didn't want to do videos because they said, well, I'm not a real great editor. But one of the things that you kind of brought out is that, you know, highly edited videos in many cases are sometimes less credible than a video with a mistake in it.
Yeah, you know, especially now, we're recording this in the middle of the COVID-19 lockdown, and we're not supposed to, we live in Massachusetts, not supposed to go out here in Massachusetts. And so video has become a much more important part of all of our lives in a very, very short period of time, whether you like it or not. And I think that as a way to maintain a relationship with your customers, it's a really powerful thing to use video. And it's a personal relationship, you know, talking directly to the camera. You don't need to have special lighting. You don't need to use makeup. You don't need multiple cameras. You don't need to have all the bells and whistles. Sure, it should look nice, and it should be, you know, you should be framed in an interesting way. But videos like we're making right now are a powerful way for any organization to get out there and share what they do, share what they are about, share how they help people.
Mm-hmm. And the amazing thing is we could be going live. We're recording this, but we could be going live. And again, go back to 2004 and 2006 when you were putting this book together.
That was impossible.
Nope. I don't think anybody even thought of it.
Well, YouTube had started and was a basic service. It was hard to use, though, because you may remember back then, smartphones didn't have video yet. So you had to have an external video camera of some kind. Then you had to film it. You had to export that video file into your computer. You had to take the video file and upload it to YouTube. I mean, it was kind of hard. Today, you just turn on your camera, whether it's your smartphone or your screen cam, whatever it is, bang, you can be live on YouTube, you can be live on Instagram. I mean, there's all sorts of things you can be doing.
Exactly. So one of the things that people think about when they write a book, well, you know what, they get revenue from the book. But when you write a book, it opens up so many other opportunities. Talk about some of the other opportunities and revenue sources that you've been able to incorporate into your life because the book made you known.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this book, and I've written other books too. I look at the books as being essentially my marketing, but I get paid for my marketing. Of course, I'm also practice what I talk about, and I've got social media feeds, particularly like LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter, and I've also got a website and a blog and a couple of other websites to go along with some of the things I do. But yes, the idea of having a book out there drives paid speaking gigs. It drives an online course that I sell called New Marketing Mastery. It drives all sorts of really interesting things. And that becomes really powerful for anybody. The idea that you have a book out there kind of gives you that stamp that says this person knows what they're talking about. This person is somebody that you should pay attention to. But I think it's more than just revenue, because what it has for me, yes, it's been great that I haven't had to work for anybody for now 18 years. I've been on my own for 18 years, which I love.
Right, but you
No
still work.
bosses. The way I look at it is, I work, but I've managed to conjure up my own revenue for 18 years now without having to take a regular job.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool. But the other thing that's cool is all of the experiences that this has provided for me. The idea that people want to connect with me. I've had meetings with the CEOs of big companies. Ford Motor Company comes to mind. Never would have had that if I didn't write a book. I spent an entire day with the top management at NASA, including Jim Bridenstine, the administrator, #1 guy at NASA. That would never have happened if I didn't write these books. I spent an evening over dinner at the president of the Dominican Republic's palace. That never would have happened if I hadn't written this book. And I also am a huge live music fan, as you may know. I've been to 804 live concerts. I never would have been able to get backstage at the bands I love. Somebody took me to a Kenny Rogers concert one time.
I think I remember that.
And never would have had those experiences either. And many, many other experiences where I've met hundreds and thousands of people around the world who have come up to me and said, David, your ideas changed my life. And like, that is so super cool. Let's sit down and have a coffee. Tell me about it. Those experiences for me are more important in the end than my bank account, because it gives me an opportunity to live a really interesting life.
So outside of telling people to buy the book, I mean, you know what? You don't even have to tell them the name of bookstores anymore, because they can buy it in so many different formats.
Yeah.
But talk for a minute to that person that may have some creative juices, but they just don't have the belief in themselves or the ambition to either put it down on tape, put it down on paper, put it down through social media.
Yeah. So the way I look at it, if you have an idea, whether that's for a company, whether your idea is for some kind of art, whether your idea is around writing a book, what I like to think about is, are you seeing patterns in the universe that other people are not seeing? Or at least maybe there's other people who are seeing it, but no one has articulated those patterns in the form of starting a company to do it, in the form of writing a book or some other form of content to do it. And so I've written 11 books. The ones that have been most successful, and the New Rules of Marketing and PR is by far the most successful. Those are the books which I saw patterns in the universe no one else was seeing, and I wrote those ideas down. But I didn't start with the book. I started with short form content, a blog post, even just a tweet. And then if people thought that blog post was interesting and I got reaction to it, then I would write another blog post. Then I might do a video. Then I might do another blog post. And all of a sudden I realized, wow, this has been really interesting. Then I might do a free ebook. And that's actually how the New Rules of Marketing and PR got started. In 2000, and I believe it was 5, I wrote a free ebook called The New Rules of PR and put it up on my website totally free. And it got 50,000 downloads the first month, and then well over 1 million downloads within a year. And so I'm like, wow, there's something going on here. And then from there, the print book
so the free content
followed.
That was really, honest to goodness, free. It was not just a sales pitch for.
Totally free, no registration required. All you had to do was download it. I didn't know any of the people, of the 1 million people who downloaded it, unless they told me, because it was totally 100% free.
Great. So, David Meerman Scott, we want to thank you so much for spending time with us, and let our audience know that the book, one of his several books, is The New Rules of Marketing and PR, 7th edition. David, is that out as we speak?
It's out as we speak, John. Absolutely.
Okay. So they can go to their favorite place that they consume reading material or listening material or whatever else material. But I know for a fact that if it's got your name on it, it's going to be a great product. We want to thank you so much.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that. Very kind of you.
Have a great day, everybody.
You too.